This will be fun. Trying to think if I want to go into this next. We can go into this, we'll come back, okay? There's a lot of stuff. Let's see. What is this supposed to do?
Just push the arrow to the right.
To the right? Oh, to the right. All right. Oh, I'm having fun now. Okay. This is totally new stuff, all right? We've talked about ISO light sensitivity. We've talked about aperture. We've talked about shutter speed. Now we're going to talk about some settings on your camera that determine how much space you're going to take up on that memory card that you got. In your manuals, you'll find a page that talks about all the different settings that you can have as far as what it saves. When you take a picture, how big a file is it going to save? Okay? Remember that chart we looked at where it said 1800, but I'd say if you change the normal or low, you can put a bazillion on there. Well, this is kind of telling you how that's going to work out. All right, notice, is this my pointer? Oh, I love it. This is the size of the image that they're talking about in these pixels. All right, so notice that small is not taking up very much room as opposed to this. And it gets down based on what size you save. Now here's the thing about this. You take a picture, your camera goes through all these gyrations and algorithms and everything else, and based on the way you set your camera or the way it came from the factory already set for you, it's going to save that picture based on what's already set in the camera. You can control that. And what I recommend is save as big an image as you can save. Why? Okay? So, when we get talking later about pictures on the internet, you don't need 8 million megapixels. You need about 0.3. But, if you only save 0.3 and you want to make a print, of your grandkids, or, whatever, your dog, your cat, it's going to look like doo-doo because you threw away almost 8 million megapixels and you don't have enough information to make a big picture now. All you've got enough is to put up on the web. That's it. Save it big, and you can always make a file that's small enough, save it as with a new name, and use that for the web. You still have your original 8 million pixel file, and you can use that for something else later. Does that make sense? You follow what I'm saying? And keep as many megapixels as you can. You can throw some away later if you want to, but if you don't have to throw away, you can't get them back. It's a one-way street. All right? That's image quality is the first part. Compression is the second part. All your cameras have the ability to compress at least probably 3 levels. I call it good, better, and best. All right? The more you compress, the more you throw away. So this is the second avenue that we start throwing stuff away. Okay? If your camera is taking JPEG images, you're throwing pixels away right from the get-go. It's just a question of how many. And so what I'm telling you to do is save as many as you can. So set it on the best, highest quality as you can. Back up. Save as many of them as you can. And then, what's this? Okay, that's the same information just thrown in a different way. So this is talking about the size of the megapixels that you're going to save. All right, you notice you got the superfine, the largest number, versus down here, which is the lowest, the most compression, and the least number of pixels saved. That's why you can get a gazillion of them on your memory card, but they aren't worth anything because you can't do anything but put them on the web. That's it. You're stuck. So start with the best you can, and then go from there. So always go with the best and the finest. In your manual somewhere, you'll find a page like this that talks about all these settings on your camera. All right? That's your homework. You don't have to do it now, but if we've got some time, we can play around with our cameras. On your menus, there's a place in there to go to set quality, compression, a bunch of other things we're going to talk about. So you're going for the best. You know, you want to shoot the best that you can. And the more you save, the more room it's going to take up in your memory card. That's why you want to have 4, 8, 16 gig cards. And let's stop a minute and talk about that. All memory cards are not made the same way. Just like all cameras are not made the same way. We'll talk about that. Remind me, in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the sensors on your cameras. The image sensor, okay? The thing that grabs all of the picture data. Let's see, let's stop a little bit. Okay. So, if you buy your memory cards at Walmart, and I buy my memory cards at B&H, Photo Video in New York, there's a good chance that my card is going to be better than your card. Partly because Walmart is set up with a consumer mentality. They're trying to get things at a value that you'll buy. Right? So they're going for less expensive. I don't want to say cheap, just less expensive. What I buy at B&H Photo, they are primarily there for professional photographers and what I would call advanced consumers, prosumers, if you want to call it that, kind of an in-between group. So they're going to carry only the better grades of cards. What it means is there's a deal with every card is made to handle a certain speed of writing and a certain speed of reading it back. Okay, so there's 2 speeds they're talking about. And they will confuse the tar out of you if you try to understand them and you get kind of half the information but don't get it straight. You just totally jimmying around. And I still have trouble with it, but I was reading some material the other day. There was one of the better explanations of it. You see all this information, and what they'll tell you at Walmart, they'll say, oh, this is a 30 megabytes per second card. Well, that's not the term that you really want to know about, because that's the reading speed, all right? And the reading speed is what that comes back to you after it's already on there. But what you really is important to you is how fast does it get from your camera onto the card, and that's the write speed, the writing speed. And usually those cards that you would buy at Walmart will only write at about 4 or 5 or 6 megapixels per second. Okay? Professionals will go at 30, 40, and 60 megapixels per second. But they cost more. It's a trade-off. I'm not saying that those are bad at Walmart, because I have a couple from Walmart. They have some of the better grade stuff there. I bought a couple of SanDisk Ultra 16 megapixel SD cards. Those are, I would say, kind of the middle of the road. So if you get the better quality stuff they have at Walmart, you're getting a pretty good deal. And if you watch, they'll go on sale. I got those for $10 a piece. They're usually 35 or 40. I just got this crazy sale at Christmas time, and I took it. And I was freaking out because I went to the store and I couldn't find them anywhere. I finally asked somebody, and they're way down on the bottom. There are 2 of them left, and I took them both. Okay, let's go back to this chart again. All right, this becomes important when you're starting to figure all this stuff out, because now we're trying to save as many megapixels as we can. So you might not be dealing with 800, 1,800 images. You might be down to 1,200. Oh, bummer, only 1,200 images. My first card that came with my little Kodak camera, I can't find it. I have the second card, but I can't find the first card. It was an 8 meg, not gig, 8 megabyte card. I mean, 8 megabytes. But that thing would hold like 36 images, because we were shooting little dinky things, you know, way down here in the bottom of the chart. It was crazy. Okay, white balance. I'm going to just fly by this because you pretty much just leave yours on auto and everything's cool. A lot of yours have settings on them, like the night setting. sunset setting, backlight setting, all these settings. You want to play with those, that's a cool thing, but for the most part, auto does a great job. Now we mess around with ours because we have a little different situation, and we're shooting not JPEGs, we're shooting raw images, and I can talk about that later, but that's kind of over your head, and so is most of this stuff. Leave it to say that all your cameras are set up for sRGB, which in the scheme of things is the lowest common denominator there is in color. Now, the best explanation I can give is there's all these different triangles. The big outline there, outside the triangle, that is the field of vision, what you can physically see, humans. And the different triangles are different types of color profiles that can capture various stages of those colors. The extent of greens and reds and how many shades and so on. And the smallest triangle in there is the sRGB color profile. And that's what most cameras are set for, just kind of a standard thing. The reason they're set that way is because that's what is used on the web. That's what's used on your computer, is sRGB. So that's the most common thing that people are seeing. But if you're dealing with newspaper, if you're dealing with postcards, posters, magazines, the magazine we put out to 4-color, that doesn't cut it. It's not good enough. Most printers print, at least in the Adobe color space, which you see gives you a lot more green. Reds are about the same, blues are about the same, but just adding that green gets a whole new wave of colors and variables in there. Somewhere on your camera, there'll be a place where you can set either sRGB or Adobe. What's complicating this, so that I was going through my stuff and I was recommending switching it over to Adobe. And Matt, my partner, and I go back and forth this all the time. If you take your stuff to Sam's or Walmart for reprints, they're calibrated for the most part to take everybody's sRGB prints and make them look really good. So to take them in with an Adobe profile, which supposedly has more colors in it, you may or may not see the difference. So I don't know that it's worth the hassle. But for us and what we do, it's more important than it is for you. Just know that that is a possibility, and it comes from the factory almost always defaulted to the sRGB. This is kind of the combination of all that stuff put together. I want you to have the largest image with the least amount of compression and as much color as you can get to capture as much information as you can. You can always do stuff with it later and throw parts of it away and do whatever you want to and crop it down and whatever else you want to do. That's everything on that. Now, let's see if we can figure this out. This is going to be fun. That's a permanent marker. Whoa. Whoa. Let's try this. Okay. You've got 100, 200, 400, 800. We've got F 2.8, F4, F5.6, F8. What am I missing? Oh. 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/25th, 1/250, and 1/500. Okay. You should know what this means at this point. I mean, if you don't understand how the relationship works, we should know. This is ISO. Oh, let go. F-stop. And this is shutter speed. Also called aperture. Okay? Light sensitivity, double this, that's double that, that's double this. This is the big opening. This is the small opening. Okay? And it goes this way. All right. This is slow to fast. So, if I take a picture at 200, f5.6 at 160. Okay? Now, I want to take that same picture. Let's say this is what I took of the daffodil picture, and you can see the grass in the background. All right? So, in order to get rid of it, I want a shallower depth of field. I open up bigger. I want a bigger opening, so I go here. All right? What do I have to do to get the same exposure? I jump two settings on my aperture. Now I've got 4 times as much light coming in the camera. Okay, shutter speed. All right, I'm here. So what do I need to do? Go this way? How far? 250? Everybody buy that? No? Any opposition? Any change, other opinion?
You're letting in less light.
Okay, let's walk through this. I'm going from here to here, which I'm letting in 4 times as much light. Okay? If I go faster on the shutter speed, I'm letting in less light the further down I go. So if I change this 2 stops, less light, 2 stops, more light, everything's the same. As far as the amount of light hitting the sensor. Okay? Or, okay, I could do okay, I could change my ISO from 200 to 100. Okay, I can do this. I'm going to leave this here, and I only have to go 1 stop on my shutter speed, and I still have the same amount of light. Light bulb? Dim? Cloud?
Rain.
It's raining? Okay, follow me? Here we go. This one and this one. Okay, I'm going to go here. Now, this one, how do I get there without confusion? I'm going to cross over to here. All right? This, and this is the same amount of light as this, and this. Okay?
So what it's basically changing is your depth of field?
When I went from here to here, I changed the depth of field. This is the daffodils with the grass in the background. You can sort of see it, but it's not in focus.
And the top of
And this one, all of it disappears. It's just a fuzz. Just a
The
soft fuzz back there. The daffodils are the only thing that's in focus. Everything else is gone. You have no clue what's behind it. Okay? So this is what will work like close-ups. When you do close-ups, you're in macro, your depth of field shrinks. So that's why focus is critical. Very critical. Okay? Let me think. In nature, when you're out shooting, like if you want to go out this spring and shoot wildflowers, the thing to do, you want to be focusing shallow depth of field. And the more macro you go, the more shallow it's going to be anyway. So it's very critical that your other settings, that your shutter speed is set so that the wind's not going to mess you up. If the wind blows that flower, you're going to get blurred. So you want to go faster on your shutter speed. Okay? You want to be up here, probably more here. And just to be safe, you probably don't want to hand hold it. I mean, you could, but if you really like that picture and you hand hold it, it's hard to keep that same thing every time you stop to look at your picture and you say, now, where was I? If you put it on a tripod and you take that picture and you're looking at it, it hasn't moved. So that's how I got that picture of the daffodils. It's sitting on a tripod. So the daffodils in the same place in both of those, but the background changed because I changed some of these settings. If you write these numbers down, okay, and you play with those on your camera, you take something and you shoot 200 f4 at 60, and then you start changing these things, you'll start to feel the relationship between them to get the same exposure. That's all we're trying to create here, is this exposure is the same amount of light as this exposure. Okay?
So if you were shooting, if you're trying to catch a butterfly on the daffodil, you would probably move your shutter speed down.
Yeah. So if you do this, then you might have to counteract it. If you are in this range, you might want to go at 560. You want to make sure that thing's in focus. And the flower is too. So that means that you're moving this, okay? Because you cut down your light quite a bit here, so you can get it back over here without changing your f-stop. Okay, you're not changing your depth of field, but you're going to stop the action and you're going to get enough light by changing your ISO. Those three things work interrelatedly. All right, you move one, you got to change another one to counteract it. If you're in the same light situation, they work together. It seems complicated, but if you do it, and this is in the manual mode, you can't do this with auto. You can't do it with program. And you can't really do it with the other settings either. This is in a manual where you're trying to control things. I'm basically a control freak. It's all about control. It's what did you set on your camera? What did you want to get? So your settings on your camera in terms of how many pixels you save and how much you compress it and everything else, those are all your control. This is your control, how much light you're letting in and what kind of light you're letting in. Shallow depth of field, real deep depth of field. When would you want to have lots of depth of field? What kind of a photo would you try to take where you want lots of depth of field?
The landscape scene.
Yeah. You want everything to look gorgeous in the landscape.
Field of flowers.
What?
Field of flowers.
A field of flowers, yeah. One of the things I want to try to shoot this year, I have a couple pictures just caught on the lark. We were out taking pictures in dairy farms, and there was this huge field of yellow. And I'm like, what is that? It was chia. Chia, when it flowers, the chia, when the flower and the seeds in chia are very nutrient rich. And so there's a place for it. So somewhere experimenting in Kentucky with raising it and making it a farm crop. So there's this huge field, and it was just, yellow. It was gorgeous. And I stopped and took a couple. But that was the last time I've done that, several years ago. So I want to actually, but I want that, if I want to take that picture, I want everything to be in focus. Front to back, side to side, everything. So it's going to be a nice sunny day, or at least a slightly overcast day, and I'm going to have lots of depth of field, and it's going to be a real rich color when I get done with it. It's really cool. The cool thing about photography is you get what you put into it. It's somewhat of a thinking. You're asking yourself 20 questions, maybe 100 questions when you talk about taking a picture, and based on how you answer those and how you set your camera, is what you come up with some really cool stuff. As you do this more and more, it becomes second nature. You're not just picking your head apart and going, what am I doing now? It just kind of comes natural in some things, and you can experiment with newer things. Let's see. Okay. Let's kind of switch gears. And a new set of stuff pans out. So I'm going to talk about what makes for a good picture. Oh, let's hold on a second. Let's take a break here from that. Okay. Where's my cheat sheet? All right. I forget how many megapixels this is. Who else has a Fujifilm? Who else has it? How many megapixels is yours? 10. All right. I think this is 12 or 14. I can't remember. This one is 21. My other camera, well, let's go with these. What's the difference between these two cameras? Let's say this is 15 megapixels and this is 20 megapixels. Let's say they're both 15 megapixel cameras. So they both take 15 megapixels every time you take a snap. What's the difference between these two cameras?
It wouldn't be tore up if you lost the green one.
This is true. You drop this one, I'm dead. In terms of camera, what's the difference between them? Why are they both 15? What's the major difference in taking a picture with this one versus this one?
Well, I suppose the big one has a lot more adjustments. A lot more.
Actually, this has almost as many adjustments as this does. This has a few more, yeah, but this, for your buck, has a big bang. It's amazing what this can control. You're not, no, it's not the right gear. You're going the wrong way. The lens, yes, but there's more than just the lens. What's behind the lens? Shutters. They both have the same shutter speeds, same f-stops, same ISOs. They both use an SD card. And if I take the picture of both of them, it's the same photographer. What's different? There's something significantly different between these two.
Number of us.
No? No? Same f-stops.
They both have Zoom, but do they have the same?
No, you're missing it. You're not there yet. You're clueless. Come on. Somebody. Light bulb. Come on. Turn on the light bulb.
More
Huh?
control with the larger.
Not the control.
It's a single lens reflex camera, so it's.
It is, but that's not the problem.
Sounds like.
It looks like sensor. The camera sensor. All right? Where's the image going? What's it being captured on? It's a little flat sensor. It has a bunch of little tiny sensors on this sheet. And it takes those light readings on each one of those sensors. It gives it a number between 0 and 255. And then it all gets translated and sent out into a picture. The difference between this camera and this camera is the size of the sensor. So, all cameras are not equal. And I have a camera at home. My first camera, my professional camera, is only a 7 megapixel camera. But it's like this. Okay? So, this one takes 15 megapixels. This should be twice as good as my big one, right? It takes more megapixels. Right? No. Okay. Here we go. All right, stand up. Everybody stand up. I'll wake you up. Okay, I need 6 people to come up here. Anybody, just come on up here. All right. You get this one. This is yours. It's yours. It's yours. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Who has the smallest? You have the
I
smallest.
have
What's it say on the back of it?
1/3 of an inch webcam.
Webcam, all right. You know those little cameras they put on top of your monitors? Those webcam things that see you? All right, the little sensor that's in there, this is blown up. Gosh, how many times did I do this? I think it's about 20 times your real size. Okay? Maybe more than that. The real size of the thing is about the size of my little fingernail. All right, that's the sensor. Okay? So, who has the second largest? I think you do. What's your second?
1/2.3 and XP50.
XP50. Oh, this is my camera. All right? The sensor in my camera is that size. Hold yours up next to his. That's the webcam. That's my little XP50. Not too impressive, is it? Webcam's almost as good, as big as that. All right, who has the next one?
I got a 1 and 1/8. It's a Canon PowerShot, 100 or 110.
A couple people have power shots.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, there's your sensor, next to him. All right, a little bit bigger, not much, maybe just wider. That's the other thing, some of them take different dimensions, so this pixel from that camera is not the same as that pixel from this camera. They're different, it drives you nuts. Who has the next, you have the next one, what's your say?
2/3 inch Fuji 5X.
Okay, think about it, 2/3 of an inch, all right? The diameter, not the width, not the height, the diameter, okay, this way, is 2/3 of an inch. Okay, get that in your head, 2/3 of an inch, all right? You got an inch and you turn it sideways. So that's blown up like, I don't know, 20, 30 times. So it's what, maybe half again as big as the, what was your camera?
A Canon PowerShot.
PowerShot, which is bigger than the Fuji, which is way big, bigger than the webcam, all right? What's your camera?
1 inch Sony phonies, I wish I did.
Okay,
That's good, because that's my camera.
is that your camera?
PowerShot's what I got.
Look at this, compared to these guys. Whoa, all
That's
right.
the camera
Okay.
that I don't have with me.
This is still only 1 inch diagonal, 1 inch, okay? But over the 2/3, all right, look at the difference. Look at what's going on here. See, we're starting to get there, all right? We're getting bigger. That's probably half again as big. So, if all of these shot, say, 10 megapixels, which one do you think would be the best quality? Not that one, this one, right? Okay, that's the difference, all right?
Sarah. Doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything, nothing. That is my camera.
What is your camera?
This is a Canon 1DS Mark III, full frame sensor. Full frame means the original 35 millimeter film was 35 millimeters wide, 26 millimeters tall, okay? So this is that full frame sensor, okay? This is, which one? Does one of them say ASC on it? Does yours say ASC on it? I don't know what happened to that one. Anyway, there's a professional size that the best prosumer consumer cameras, like the, I think the Rebels actually, are this ASC size, which is something maybe a little bigger than this. Okay, so it's a good size sensor, but it's not this. So think about this, okay? Here we go. This is a good camera. Look at the difference in the size of the sensor. Which camera would you want to shoot with?
The one I can afford.
The one I
That is an issue.
Sure, we'd all love that.
Yeah, we all look at your camera.
I'll tell you what,
Can you bring us one?
Yeah.
they are coming down in price. This camera, when we bought it, I think it cost $4,500.
Joel?
Just a camera. Just a camera, not the lens. The lens was extra. And they're professional lenses. But we decided, we got to a point, we were shooting with what we call prosumer.